We'll try to leave some time for questions and answers at the end. I'm going to turn it over to Tara in just a minute. She's going to help us with first principles training, but a lot of our time tonight will just be in groups. You're going to be broken into smaller groups tonight. We got a bunch of young people. It's good to see our youth ministry here, Relentless Youth. We're so happy that you're here, and everybody else joining us. It's great to have you, and we might get a few more participants, but you're going to get broken up into smaller groups so that we get to really have some good discussion time tonight with our first principles training. Tara, are you going to start to break people into groups now, or do we need to break for a couple minutes for people to do that?
Hey there, Pastor John.
Yes.
Kevin here. So yes, we're going to allow everybody to take just a momentary, let us get this next step down, because we got to break it into groups, and then we have to manually assign people to those groups. So you might be waiting 5 minutes for some of the longer, for the last few people might take more like 10, but Tara would like to share something. So here we go.
Hold on real quick. I just want to give a couple updates before we jump into training. I just didn't know if
we're not going to jump into training right away. That's what I was going to jump in and say, is we're actually going to split the group into two right now. We're going to let the youth group go into their group, and then we'll keep our big group. Okay. And then when we're ready to break into our smaller groups, then we'll do another quick pause and get everybody into the smaller groups. So that way the youth doesn't have to sit through our little spiels, and they can start their stuff right away.
Okay, great.
That should go quickly.
Okay. So quick update for everybody. As people are asking, you got the emails today. We did have some of our staff and families of staff test positive for COVID symptoms, as well as people that are symptomatic, and people are recovering well. Nobody's in crisis. I just want to make sure that it's really important to us that people are not operating in a spirit of fear or panic or spreading false information, because we're just being cautious because of the times that we live in, and we want to be conscientious of people that could be vulnerable. And because it was staff members, we come in the most contact with the most amount of people. So if you were at church on Sunday, you were potentially, in proximity with people that were symptomatic near the staff. And so it started a little bit earlier in the week, but we had some people stay at home before Sunday, but it became apparent that it was at least a few people, like 3 to 5 people, that we're concerned about. And we wanted to, and other people were in direct contact with them. And so we felt it was hard to reopen services with so much of our staff exhibiting symptoms, testing positive, and then also being exposed to those that tested positive. So we're just trying to be cautious, just ask you to continue to be prayerful that everyone would recover well, as they are so far. I am just really thankful that we are on this course together, because like we said when we shared on Vision Sunday, if things came up where we had to go underground, we had to go online, there just seemed like there was a certain amount of uncertainty that was upon us. And so this is really why we pivoted to do first principles, especially exclusively in this window, is if we have to do these online like we do this week and next Wednesday, we're able to do it, but we're able to stay on a track that we wanted to be on all along. And so I'm just really thankful to the Lord for the opportunity we have. So thank you for joining us. And I just want to reassure everybody that because we're going through, 6 lessons of training in 3 weeks, we're covering a lot of ground and a lot of material. Not everybody was able to get a book yet. Tara will have some updates for you on that in just a moment. But we're going to be here to help you if you're leading a group. We're going to be here to coach you. I'm going to encourage you to go back over the lessons again if you've missed them or you got the book later. This teaching book, though, teaching the first principles, just to reiterate what we talked about last week, is that it's only used for our training times. Once you get into the actual groups, starting the second week of October is our target start date, Lord willing, is we start becoming a disciple in the first book of the First Principles series. And these lessons are easier than these lessons for leadership. So some people are like, this seems so intense, so overwhelming. It seems very theological and dense, and I don't understand. Well, I just want to remind everybody that when you don't understand, that
Hey, Pastor John.
Yeah.
One sec. I hit go on the groups. So all the adults or a lot of adults are moving already to that group. So if you got an invite to join a group, will you just continue that in there? It's because we kicked all the youth out already.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So I just hit the button and I noticed a lot of people started moving. And so Tara's talking to them right now. So if you didn't get the invite, I will send it to you right now. And you can just continue with what you're saying. Sorry for the confusion.
Okay. How do I get into the group? Breakout room?
Yep, breakout room, join breakout room. And I will get everyone else on here. I'll start moving people.
All right. People are joining back in. We snapped you right back to the main session.
It'll take a few minutes for everybody to kind of pop back in.
Oh, there they are. They're coming in quick now. Went from like 20 people to 60.
It's fine.
Okay. Well, welcome back, everybody. I know this is you're in for a wild ride here. You're just pivoting left and right. You're anticipating group, and then you get an email that you're on Zoom, and then we're all, give a special hand to Pastors Kevin and Tara for figuring out breakout rooms today. They had to like dive in and learn. They're somewhat familiar with the technology, but they had to kind of dig in a little bit more for us. And I'm so appreciative of them getting in and being willing to learn this way. And I know we're just like drinking water from a fire hose, but I would love to hear from a couple people tonight and just say, out of what you read and or discussed, what was one thing that really stood out to you as helpful to understand about this process of teaching the Socratic method? So I'd love to hear from a few of you. What's your highlight or your biggest takeaway?
One of mine was that everyone comes from a different background. Even though we all go to church and we all think we're the same, we are not. And just listening to our group tonight, wow, I had no idea, so probably had no idea about us either, but yeah. So learning to accept everyone for who they are and where they come from.
Oh, that's great. And I think we have so much to learn from each other when we hear those little snippets and backgrounds. And to think when you get in to this next book, the chapters are more simple and straightforward. And you're going to have a whole hour and a half to dive into that and let people share from their experiences and learn around, with the scriptures and the Spirit being the center, of course, but being able to hear from each other and discuss these ideas is really exciting to hear from all those different perspectives and the different joys and pains. We had a similar experience, just getting to hear little nuggets from people's educational background, family members that got involved in cults, or children in jail, or, just different things that God's redemption, great stuff. What else?
Well, this book kind of makes me want to cry a little bit because it's really hard in some places to understand. And I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but I just thought I'd share that a little bit so hopefully this one isn't going to make me cry as much as this one is, but
it's not, I promise.
You're right. I don't
it won't.
It
won't.
You know what I think will be really helpful is I'm really anxious to take this book and start doing it and then put it alongside this one, because I think this one is going to make a whole lot more sense when we start doing it alongside of this.
You got it.
Grace, I am right there with you. This was overwhelming.
Yeah.
But when we do it alongside this, I think it'll make a lot more sense.
Yeah, you can consult the teaching guide, the red book, as you're going through the green book. But I think you're right. And even, I think I don't remember if it was chapter 3 or 4, but it actually told us to start looking through the first book, because I think it starts connecting the dots. You start catching the flow of it more. And I think part of this is they're really trying to convince people that don't believe in the power of Socratic discussion or don't believe in the idea of group learning. So they're really trying to throw it in they're really trying to help people that are going to be obstinate against this kind of method. And so you get sometimes authors or ideas, they get a little defensive of their position, and they really try to go deep to help, win an argument that the reader may or may not have, depending on their background, but they're trying to anticipate, a wide audience and how people might react. But
Well,
thank you for your honesty.
They weren't anticipating me, so
Yeah.
I need to go back and talk to them.
Yeah. No, I think you guys, if you hang with it, the dots are gonna connect. I believe in you. I really do. I believe in you, babe. You're gonna do great.
Really quickly, I just put a note in the chat for everybody. I am working on some times for Friday for you guys, if you want to purchase the green books, if you're ready for that. Or if you don't have a red book and you still need to pick that up. And then I'm also working on some times next week. I just have to coordinate so we can do contactless pickups. So be watching your emails, and I'll try to get those times out to you quickly. But that's why I don't want to do it tomorrow, because it's a lot of coordinating to kind of get that done. But we'll get it to you guys, and we're going to try and do it as quickly as we possibly can.
Oh, that's great. I have a couple, I'd like to hear from a couple more of those. Is there anybody that could speak to, how are you seeing the benefit of the discussion method? What's standing out to you as a positive on on what you're learning or what you're seeing?
I'd like to answer to that, Pastor John. I love this structure. I'm used to a structured background when I taught at Boeing, but this helps everybody, like you said, to be on the same page. I really love the structure. It is a little overwhelming, the red book, but it is setting us up, and so the green book will be easier probably. But I do like the structure. I think it's going to be great for everybody.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Gracie. I think it's a little confusing, because you're learning something new. So when you're learning something new, it's always going to be like, hard in a sense, because your mind has to get in tune with it, really. You have to go along with it and just keep learning and learning, as you go along. But I can see to where it's going to be definitely a huge benefit, because everybody's getting to know a lot more about each other, really, through this whole thing. Yeah. And we're learning a lot more about the Bible and ourselves, and we're learning a lot about the people in the Bible more so too.
Mm-hmm.
So I look forward to it, but I hope it gets easier.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's really good to have reference. I think sometimes when people say, well, I think, and it's really important to, what does the Bible say? And so this kind of dialoguing is great, because it brings out of people, well, I thought that's what it was, but not to be like hard down structure, but actually say, oh, wow, the word actually says this. Mm-hmm. And so I really like that aspect, to kind of reel people back in that may have had a misunderstanding or how they perceived it in their thought process.
Yeah. Well, what's really powerful? I've actually heard from 3 families now that their adult children want to go through this group. Wow. Some of them that have been backslidden in a sense, or have walked away from the faith, that want to re-examine if they really understand the scriptures. Others that are, not really discipled, or that maybe even want to get involved in church planning in the future. So there's a wide range, but it's fun to see that that's even impacting families. But I think anybody, Victoria, that's a really good point, that it's really helping us. And, like, for instance, lesson 1 in the green book, in becoming a disciple, is really just the gospel message. And so it lays, how did the early church consistently communicate the gospel message in Acts? And it's a simple, you've got one key passage in Acts chapter 10, when Peter's preaching to Cornelius's house, the first time the Gentiles hear the gospel. And then it's, you get to break it down pretty simple from there. So I'm confident that you guys are going to do great as we progress. But I think one of the things we came up with, and I'm wondering if anybody else had any other thoughts, but one of the things we talked about being a challenge, and especially for me as a preacher, is facilitating Socratic discussion. One advantage I have is that Grace and I have been leading a discipleship group, and I didn't spend much time preaching or teaching in there. I spent time facilitating more discussion and questions. So I have a little bit of experience with this. But I know as a preacher, it's easy for me to want to get in there and fill everybody in on what I think they should know. But I see a real benefit as to, we do that on Sundays. We do that through podcasts and through teaching series and through books. We give people teaching doctrine ideas, but giving our church a space where people really get to interact around biblical ideas, share their background, share their pains, their joys, their personal story, and all around the scriptures and what the Spirit is doing, I think is a really dynamic opportunity for our church. I think the fellowship will grow even deeper as a result. You know, I don't see this, won't replace fellowship, it will just enhance it. And is there anything else that you thought, what is a challenge for you as it comes to think about leading discussions or Socratic method? Does anybody have, from experience or from what you're reading, what are some of the challenges of adopting this besides just trying not to talk too much and learning to listen?
I think from my experience in business, the biggest challenge really is keeping the people who want to talk all the time from monopolizing and keeping the quiet people from being quiet. And so to really hone that skill of pulling out the people who haven't said anything in a non-threatening way, though, because sometimes people are quiet because they're quiet and they're afraid. And so if you put a spotlight on them, you make it worse. So it has to be done really delicately to ensure that you don't hurt people, that you don't stomp on people, you know? And it took me a lot of years to learn that. It was a lesson hard learned. So it's, yeah.
Oh, a lot of wisdom there. That's great.
Could I answer her question on that? When, you know, on the shy people, I think these questions are going to be great with how the structure of the book is. And I think it softens it a little bit to help people to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, the questions are going to be great for that. That's all.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. That's good. I think there's also a benefit of keeping our groups small. And if they grow too big, really having a leader in training ready to multiply. And then you can put your leader in training through the Red Book in the future. How about that? They can earn their stripes like you had to. But keeping them small so that, I think what Cheryl said is, even if there's only 6 or 8 people, you're going to have quieter people and more talkative people. So it's always going to be something you need. But when you keep it not too big, then people aren't necessarily thinking that they're teaching a whole group, but they're more just sharing around a table with friends or, you know, disciples or, you know, fellow brothers and sisters in the Lord. And it's a really powerful environment when everybody has a chance to share and interact. So I'm hoping that by next week you can try to look over these chapters, you know, try to skim through the scriptures and get an overview of what we're talking about so we can discuss chapter 5 and 6. And I think hopefully you know a little bit more this week than you knew last week. And we'll just keep inching it forward, and we're going to be here to be with you through this process. I just wanted to give a couple thoughts overall and see if there's any questions on the overall structure. Tara and Pastor Herb has been working with Lori, and they've been all doing an amazing job getting leaders vetted, finding out which people are, you know, kind of pivoting their existing home group, who's starting a new group, whether they're meeting at church or at home or on a Wednesday night or a different day of the week and whatnot. Some are looking at Zoom video. So there's a lot of information that they're assimilating right now. And we just started announcing to the church that they get to sign up for groups. One of the things that's come up from a conversation with Doug Crawford, you know, please feel free to utilize the church building on like a Wednesday night where we're in a larger group. If you're concerned about COVID limitations in your home, the current governor's guidelines are 5 outsiders from your home in a single gathering. If your group is larger than that 6 or 7 people, you know, with the 5, including you and your household or whatever, and you don't feel comfortable, then you could split your home group temporarily into 2 groups, or you could have it in the church building if you felt that could be safer with distancing and more space in there. And that's why we're trying to make the church building available on Wednesday nights, and even other times during the week, like during a day or an evening if we have to. We're going to do our best to accommodate groups where they feel like they could be more safe. And we're hoping that, you know, these things aren't lasting much longer, but that we're able to pivot. And the thing is, each home group or discipleship group that's going through first principles, if somebody's not feeling well, you're going to have to decide what to do. If you can do a group chat, if you can do a Facebook group, if you do a Zoom call, we want to keep, you know, we want you to have the flexibility and freedom. We're giving you some tracks to run on, but we know that how you apply what to do each week can depend on these different kind of variables that are going on right now in this interesting cultural moment that we have. So I just want to see if there's any questions on kind of that overall structure and whatnot. I know last week we had a lot of them, and maybe most of those answered. Yeah.
You said people are going to be signing up for groups.
Uh-huh.
So does that mean that, okay, I've already invited a few people into my group, right? So if people sign up and you want to limit it to a certain number, how is that going to work?
Can I talk to that really fast?
Yep.
So Lori has been trying to reach out to everybody specifically, and she can cap your group. And if you give her the names of our group system is on, it's all online. It's on our website. You can click through, find the groups and get to their names. We've capped all the groups at 14 at this point to allow people to sign up, but to keep the groups small. But if you would like your group smaller than that, you can email Lori, and I will put her email in the chat, and then email her if you already have people in your group, who they are, and if you want to cap your group at smaller than 14. There are a few groups out there that we do know they are smaller than 14, and so we've done that. And so then when people do decide that they want to join a group, they won't be able to, because it'll show that your group is full, or that you only have 1 or 2 spaces available. And if there are, like, if you're looking for, you know, like if you're marriage ministry and you're looking for married groups, make sure that Lori knows that information, because then she'll put that in the group description as well. I know, like, we have a group of like single moms that meet together, so we want to make sure that we know, so that there's a variety of group types. So if you have a little bit more specific requirements on your group that you'd like listed, please let Lori know that as well, because she's kind of orchestrating kind of the details behind the scenes on that, and I'm helping her get all that information collected. And I'm trying to think, if you should, most of you should have an email from Lori. If you haven't responded to it yet, it should be somewhere in your email where she has tried to reach out to you to get that information. If you don't have that, you can, like I said, I'm going to put her email in the group chat so you guys can get that.
Yeah.
So how do we know when someone signs up? I mean, are we going to get a notification?
Yep.
How do we know? Or what if we get no?
You are going to get an email notification, and Lori and I, and probably hopefully Pastor Herb will be there. It notifies us when someone requests to join a group as well. So we'll be moderating that and helping you guys follow up with people, and making sure that we have their, you know, making sure that you have an email for them so you can get a hold of them and things like that. So you should get an email notification, and then we also get an email notification.
Okay.
On that, so that you'll be able to know, you know, somebody has requested to join your group. And again, I think one of the things Pastor John said was, if the biggest part of this is relationships. So if you have people that you know you want in your group, start asking them now. Don't wait for people to join. Just ask them, invite them in.
It'll be a combination of you recruiting people and people signing up. If you don't know a lot of people, or a lot of people don't know you yet, it's conceivable that we have so many groups starting that a few people might not have people join their groups yet because they just don't know how great and awesome you are. And I would hope that doesn't happen, because we have incredible leaders stepping up, but that is possible where you might end up folding in with another group. I know some people have said, can I just go teach this to my family members? And I'm like, yes, you know, we want to get you as the leader are going to learn so much from this process, as well as the people you're discipling. And so, of course, we'd like it to expand beyond people's just like nuclear families. But at the same time, if it is just a nuclear family that's going through the scriptures together for the next 16 months, then that's powerful. And that would be awesome. I would say it's kind of that both and. We're going to open it up for people to sign up. Grace and I have had a discipleship group. A lot of the people that were in our group are going to be leaders now. But we still have people that we're inviting in to be a part of our group at the church. And I noticed, like, looking at the group app, not all of our groups are up yet, but it's looking like we could have 40 groups that will be going. And like I said, if we start off and you don't have anyone in your group, it might be that you would just join in and support another leader and be a kind of their co-leader partner. And then if somebody's busy, you lead. And then if the group grows, you get to help split the group. So just try to stay a little flexible at this juncture. And I'm sure that it's possible that some people try to join a group and they just don't feel like there's a good connection for them and they want to join another group, and we won't take it personally. I mean, sometimes people might enjoy the group or the time they're in, and other times they might say, well, there's these other people, I think I tried your group, but I know these other people. And we just want people to find their fit, and fit in somewhere where they can really plug in and grow. One of the other questions I got was, some women have met like in different Bible study groups during the week, but then also maybe with their spouse, they're in a home group. So should they do this with their home group or with their girlfriend, their lady friends during the week? And I would say it's okay if somebody wants to be in more than one group. The lessons would be a little redundant, but I'm expecting every group is going to have a unique flavor, because you're still going to pray together. At some point in our future, you'll eat together, you'll get to know each other. So, it's okay. The idea is, I think, as we progress into the future, that people really belong in one key group where they are really accountable. They really get to know each other. They really get to pour into others well that way. But if somebody wants to double up, there's no rules that say they can't double up a little bit. But I think it would be important for people to have a primary commitment where they're really rooted and plugged in.
I have a quick question. Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Yeah. What would you do with the children? There are families who would bring children to the meetings. And do you have any suggestions?
Well, I think you need to say in your group whether your group can accommodate children, or even maybe how many children you can accommodate, because every house and space is different, and every person's bandwidth is different. I think for now, we're leaving it up to, and Pastor Herb might be able to weigh in on this too, but for now, we're leaving it up to every group to really pray and discern how they could involve children, whether someone should, depending on the age of the kids, if someone could be there to care for kids, or if the kids could participate in some manner. I already heard from from Bob McGowan today, that they're hoping that some of the kids that are getting of a certain age will participate in the dialogue and the prayer with them, which I think is just awesome. So if they're of the right age, I think it would really benefit them to participate and for us to pull our kids. And I've been surprised to see how much our kids have enjoyed wanting to be around some of this stuff more lately with adults. And I think that that's been a missing part in our church pictures sometimes, just culturally. And so I would encourage kids to get involved as long as the group can accommodate it, but we're not going to put one standard on all the groups. So just talk about it with the other people you're leading with, and find out what you think would be the best fit for how you present that. That is a great question.
Mm-hmm. So if we allow children to participate in the group discussion, do we count the children in the number within the 14?
I think you have to have some flexibility there, maybe. If you have one or two kids that comes and it makes the group grow a little bit more, that's okay. But if somebody comes with a mom and a dad and 3 or 4 kids, and all the kids are really talkative and engaged, and they're all, 10 years old to 16 years old, then you might have to count them in the group. So you'll have to kind of probably take that case by case.
Excuse me, can I ask a question, John?
Yep.
This is Carol. I'm looking online here. I'm looking at under discipleship groups, and I see that several are listed, but our names aren't on there anywhere. We haven't been told when, what time, or anything, or what's needed. So how do we do this? How do we?
Cheryl, I can answer that question.
Okay.
Because you and Jim had said that you were flexible.
Yeah.
We had kind of we were waiting to see on a few more groups, and so Lori, if she didn't email you already, she will be talking to you on Monday.
Okay.
Because we talked we talked about a couple of details that she was going to run by you guys to see where you would like to be. So she does have some spots for you.
Okay, great.
Some suggestions for you. So yeah,
Thank you.
that's
So-
why it's not there yet.
Yeah, like my group is not on there yet. And Grace and I, my dad and mom's group, our group, we're not on there yet. So some of them, they're assimilating so much information, and some of those groups already had, and like some of the groups still need to be updated, because like it says Pastor Herb's group meets the last Friday of the month, but they're actually upping their frequency. And I know if it's possible for you to meet weekly, I think that's ideal. If it's not possible, then at least twice a month or every other week is really gonna be necessary. So some of those things are still gonna get updated. And if you notice something about your group isn't on there, or it's not quite accurate, then please send an email in. Just because again, we're doing a massive information download here to get all this up. So that's a great question, Cheryl. But that is why it's taking a while to get it all clicked into place and updated online and everything.
This is Arnold. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Are you considering maybe a Zoom group?
Yes, Carl.
And the reason for that is because people might want to come together, but they live in different states, or they live in different communities. They don't want to travel, or COVID concerns, but they're glad to have Zoom only groups.
Yes, great question. And Carl and Barbara Edwards are doing a 3:00 group on Fridays on Zoom. And so that, I don't know, we may have another Zoom group too. We were hoping to have at least one, if not two, but I just noticed their group, and I knew Carl had mentioned something like that recently too in one of our meetings. So we will have those, and we will try to plug people into them that it's a better fit for.
Well, one of the reasons I mention that is because we're on YouTube. So we may be exposing our church to a much larger area than, say, Snohomish County.
Yeah.
And these people might want to connect.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this, opens doors potentially for multiplication in the future.
Now, what happens if we hear from like 2 or 3 of our members, they're just not going to be able to make it, but they could do Zoom? Could we contact you, Tara, and would we be able to do something like this? Is that protocol, or do we just kind of do our own Zoom, or what are you thinking?
We have a couple of solutions for that. Yes, you can always contact me. I'm always available via email, tjohnson@isonrise.org. I'll put that in the chat also. But yeah, we can help you set up a Zoom account so that you can do this on your own. Zoom accounts are free for up to 40 minutes. So what we have suggested in the past is, start a Zoom call, take a break, and then just start it over again so that you can continue on with your groups, since groups are usually longer than 40 minutes. But absolutely, we've done that even in meetings where, 5 of us could be there, but 5 of us couldn't be there. So, 5 of you join in on a Zoom. It's a great way to do that. And I think it's a great way to include people. Yeah, that's a great question too.
Yeah, very good question. And if some people, like for instance, if you feel like COVID season and uncertainty, it's better for you to be on Zoom even for the next 3 or 4 months and then reevaluate at the new year. You could start your group on Zoom and say, hey, we do actually want to do this in person, but we just feel like for this window of time, Zoom's better for us. So we'll really leave that to you as the leaders to discern what you think the best fit is.
Eric, could I ask a question regarding the Zoom? You mentioned 40 minutes are free, and then do you have to go for X amount of minutes break before you start up again? And then the second part of the question is, if we decide to just jam straight on through it, what are the charges for something like that after the 40 minutes?
I believe it is, they've done a couple promotions. So I think standard it's $20 a month, but it might be 10 if you can find a promotion just with everybody Zooming all the time. So if you have a paid account, if at least one person in your group has a paid account and that person sets up the call, you can kind of go unlimited time. And then as the first part of your question was, there is no cool off time. So you can end your call, everybody gets off, and then start your call again. There's no cool off. You can just go right again.
Okay, so the first part of your answer, if I understand it right, if I got an account for 10 or 20 bucks a month, whatever, we could Zoom straight through 4 times a month, 3 times a month, whatever.
Every day. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just checked for you. They're it's $14.99 a month. So for a basic one, and you can have up to 100 participants in there, and you can yeah. So that's that. So, and you can Zoom as much as you want.
Zoom, zoom, zoom.
These are really great questions, and I hope that this is helpful, and I feel like the dots keep connecting for all of us, me included, Gracie included, as we continue to go forward in this. I don't want to keep people too late, but we will be back for prayer and worship at 6:30 next Wednesday online one more time, and then 7:30 we'll do our training. We'll finish up with some Q&A, and then we'll talk about our launch for groups to the church coming up right after that. I think that our brains are probably full, but hopefully they're enlightened as well. And Grace has a quote for us, I think.
Oh yeah.
She's gonna finish a quote with us from her homeschool.
This is from Plutarch. I sound really smart when I say his name, Plutarch. But this quote stood out to me, and it was really
it fits with
everything. It's, a mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. And that's just what I'm going to leave with you guys, because I just thought that was amazing. And it's true. We don't want to just keep pouring what our ideas are into people and let them regurgitate what we're thinking, but we want to kindle the fire of their mind so that they can run with it and come up with things for themselves. So.
Amen.
Awesome.
That's powerful.
Love it.
I just pray the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord lift up his
Yes.
countenance upon you and give you peace.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen.